Hello and welcome to part 16 of the Tim Burton style character series. This is David Ward, and when last I left you, we had just finished going in and setting up the shape keys for the facial expressions. So now we're going to go in and create a rig that will control all of these shape keys. It'll be called shape key drivers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create the rig just as is, and then I'm going to duplicate it and add the duplication to the rigify, and then we will also then the original I'm going to just put on the same layer as the original default skeleton there. So I'll explain why when we get to that point, but for now let's just go ahead and start putting the new rig in there. So I'm going to select Tim here, and I'm going to Shift S, cursor to selected, so I'll put the 3D cursor right there, and now I'm going to go Shift A, and we're going to add an armature, single bone, and just for the sake of orderliness, I'm going to go ahead and name this one face_rig. Okay, and let's go ahead and turn on X-ray, and then we'll go to our armature or our object settings and turn it to wire view. Okay, and I believe need to go to edit mode. I thought it was already in there, but I am not, so I'll just go to edit mode and we grab this bone here. I'm going to scale it down, and we're going to move it up here, and it's going to control the corners of the mouth. So we'll just put it like that, and then drag it forward until it's right there on the corner of the mouth. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and name this now. Let's scroll up here till we get to the item information there. And I thought I named this rig. I thought I named that facial control, so let me do that now. Facial rig. There we go. I wonder why it didn't take earlier. Oh, I named the actual rig, not the object, so there we go. Okay, so this is going to be mouth corner. Actually, let me name it FC for facial control, and then underscore mouth.l. There we go. And then I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to drag it up here to the eyelid. Let's go to our side view and get that lined up there, and we'll call this one FC eyelid.l, or I guess it'd be .b.l for .bottom.left. Excuse me. And there we go. Oops, I didn't take the name. So eyelid.b.l. There we go. Okay, I'm going to duplicate it, drag it up, and then we'll name that eyelid.t.l for top left, obviously. Okay, and now we'll drag it up here to work as the eyebrow controller. So we'll call this one eye. We don't even need eye, just FC brow.l. And for the most part, that's pretty much all the ones we need there on the left side. So now I'm just going to go Shift A and add a new one there in the middle. Go ahead and scale that down. Just drag it straight up. This is going to be the chin controller. So we'll just name that FC_chin. Okay. And then let's drag it up a little bit on the Z-axis. So we're still centered up. And scale it down. Oops. Drag it up. I thought I turned my screencast keys on. I guess I didn't. There we go. Okay, and this was going to be FC mouth bottom. I guess we'd say lips bottom. Lips dot B, I guess, for dot bottom. And then Shift D, drag that up on the Z-axis again, and name this one dot T. Okay. And then we'll drag one more up to the middle of the eyebrow area and go ahead and scale that up just a little bit and call this one FC brow mid for the middle brow. Okay, so now that's pretty much all the controllers we need. Let's go ahead and grab these on the left side and hit period. So we're rotating around the 3D cursor, which is still right there in the middle. And we're going to Shift D to duplicate, and go ahead and click to lock it in, and SX-1 to mirror those over, just like we did on the other armature, and then obviously armature flip names. Now before I start getting these set up, I'm going to go ahead and create some, well actually I need to get these center ones lined up a little bit better, don't I? So let's drag those on the Y-axis there, and then drag this one back a little bit. Okay, I'm going to set up some custom bone shapes, so these aren't just all, little diamond shapes there that we don't really know exactly what they do. They're in a pretty good position, so we could probably guess what they do, but I'd kind of like to give them some individual shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and add a mesh circle, and then over here in the options for it, I'm not going to fill it. It's going to be empty. But the vertices, I'm going to knock that way down to, let's make it 8. And then we'll drag it over here. See it right there. Just drag it over here. I'm going to scale it. Control comma, so we're around the 3D, around the selected, not the 3D cursor. And I'll tab in, scale it that way. And then I'll tab out. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. They're in object mode. And I'm going to start with the eyebrow. So I'm going to move this up here just for a template to use for other ones. And then I'm going to Shift D, drag this down. And let's call this one FC shape. So FCSH, I guess. And then I'll underscore brow.l. Okay. And then let's go in here into edit mode and let's try to kind of get it situated to look like it's going to control the eyebrow. So let's move that over into place here, and then we'll come up here. Tell you what, let me go ahead and grab this and drag it forward too. Okay. And actually need to center its origin up on the same place as the bone here if I'm going to use that as a template. So let's go into edit mode with the armature and Shift S, cursor to selected, okay? Then grab that Shift S, selection to cursor, and then now we will select everything and get it lined up accordingly on the face. And maybe select the top of it and drag it down. And that guy forward. And that'll probably work. Let's go ahead and give it a subdivision surface just to make it a little cleaner. Okay. And I think that'll work. Tell you what, I'd like to have a little bit sharper edges right there. So let's just scale those two vertices together a little closer. Maybe these guys too. And there we go. Maybe grab this guy and drag him down a little bit more. Okay, so that's going to control that brow. And let's go ahead and duplicate it so we can drag it over to here. So I'm going to Shift D, drag it over. And I'm going to tab into edit mode and select everything. Actually, let's go Shift S so they put the cursor on its selection. And I tab into edit mode, hit period, so we're rotating around that. SX -1. So now it's a complete it's complete opposite of this one. So let's go ahead and name that one .R. Okay. And just get it in position there. We don't really need to set it up perfectly with that bone just yet. And okay, let's kind of do the same thing on the eyelid. Go ahead and grab the template over here, Shift D, duplicate that down. And I'm going to go ahead and name this one FCSH underscore lid.t.l. And we'll tab into edit mode, scale that. Let's go ahead and control comma so we're around the 3D cursor, or not around the 3D cursor anymore. And let's get this kind of a half moon shape so we can tell that it's going to be the eyelid controller. Go and drag those two together. And let's go ahead and give it a subdivision surface. Tab out. And that's looking okay, but let's get it a little better. Okay, now we'll drag that into position. And let's go ahead and center it up there on the eye controller there. Just get that dot there. Shift S, cursor to selected there. And then Shift S, selection to cursor. Tab in, and let's go ahead and do the same thing we did on the brow. Kind of get this in position and then rotate it around a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. And maybe just make it smaller overall. And once we get it attached to the actual rig, it'll have the X-ray controls too, so you'll be able to see it a little bit better. Okay, so since that's pretty well centered on itself, I'm just going to Shift D to duplicate it, and we'll call this one .b.l also. And then I'm going to tab into edit mode and scale it on the Z-axis -1. Oops, -1 time. I think I hit the 2. -1. There we go. And come out, and let's get it centered up a little bit better. There we go. And that's going to be right there. So I'll tab in and drag that up just a tad. And okay, let's go ahead and select both of those. Shift D, drag them over. And same thing we did on the eyebrow, selection to cursor, actually cursor to selection. And tab in, and go ahead and hit the period button, SX -1. There we go. Same thing down here, Shift S, cursor to selected, SX -1. There we go. And these will be .R. And this one, .R. And go ahead and drag those into place over there. Good to go. Almost there. Go ahead and create the one for the middle of the eyebrows. Just go ahead and duplicate our circle there. Scale that, Control comma, go ahead and scale that down. And then drag it up a little bit. And let's go ahead and just put it in position there. Scale that down. Maybe give that a little bit more. Oops. Shape there. Okay. Oh, I guess we need to move it back a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now the corners of the mouth, that should be pretty easy. Just kind of the same thing we did on the eyes, just a half moon shape. Go ahead and duplicate that again. Grab these guys, drag them over, and then got that guy there. Okay. And then maybe up a little bit and put it in here. And tab in, scale it down. And then same deal. Actually, I guess we need to name it. Oh, I guess I didn't name the eyebrow one, did I? So it's going to be FCSH_brow mid. And then FCSH mouth.L. Shift D to duplicate it. Shift S, cursor to selected. Control comma. Oops, nope, not control comma, period. SX -1. There we go. Drag it over. Almost there. Wasting a lot of, well, I say wasting, spending a lot of time doing this, I guess. But it'll look pretty in the end, so we'll be okay. Grab our template there again. Now we're going to go to the top lip, Shift D, drag this down. And Control comma. Okay, that'll be the top lip. And let's just duplicate that down for the bottom lip. I guess we need to name it. I keep forgetting to name all these guys. FCSH lip.T. Oops. Held down Shift when I hit the period. There we go. Go and copy that. Paste it in here and call that lip.B. Okay, now we'll tab in. And let's just SX -1. Oops. SY -1. SZ -1. There we go. Oi, been a long day. Okay, now one final one for the chin and we'll be good to go. Let's just go ahead and, well, just grab the old template itself, drag that into position, and we'll go ahead and name this one FCSH chin. Okay, tab into edit mode, scale that down, drag it up, give it like a chin strap type of look. And then let's just grab these and drag them. Oops. There we go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and save this. Control S, and we'll start setting up these bones. So let's grab the facial rig there and go to pose mode. And we'll grab this bone here and come down over here to bone, to our bone settings and custom shape. This is where we go FC brow.L. There we go. And obviously it's a little too small, so let's tab in here. Actually, tell you what, scale it down in object mode. Let's go to wireframe view. Scale that down in object mode to match the same size, and we'll tab into edit mode and scale it up, and then they'll both scale up relatively. And then let's move it forward a little bit too. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this one too. FC brow.R, same deal. it forward too. Okay, and keep going with it. Tell you what, I'm just going to do the same thing across the board, but I'm going to go ahead and pause recording so you don't have to sit here and watch me go through each and every one of these. So once I get done, I'll start recording again. We'll get these drivers set up. So we'll be right back. Okay, so I got all those shapes all set up nicely. Now I just need to get rid of, or I don't need to get rid of them, I just need to put them on a different layer. I guess I could get rid of them if I wanted to, but in the meantime, I don't want to, so let's just, we'll go to pose or object mode with the rig, as I've done here, and we'll select everything, and then deselect the head mesh, and then deselect the rig. If we can get in there and do that. Deselect the head. Well, tell you what, let's just grab the rig, if we can, there we go. Let's go ahead and move it over to the layer that has the original default armature on there. Let me select all these guys, deselect the head, and now, oops, deselect the eyeballs as well. Oy vey. Deselect. Well, tell you what, let's just hide those eyeballs. There. Okay, now let's move those over to this far bottom layer where the Rigify ends up putting the specialized shape keys for that too. So let's go ahead and move that over to there. Okay, we'll turn that off. Go ahead and unhide those eyeballs. There we go. Okay, so now we'll turn that layer back on. And for the meantime, let's go ahead and move this back to the top layer there so we don't have to see all that other stuff in there. And now we'll start setting these drivers up. Okay, so let's go ahead and save. And see how much prettier that looks than the little triangle bones or diamond-shaped bones. So, okay, so grab your mesh and go to the Object Data tab down to where shape keys are, and let's just start setting these drivers up. So the way we do that is we just select one of these drivers, and then over one of the numbers you right-click and say Add Driver, and it adds a driver to it. But then well, what happens? Well, you got to set the driver up. So let's go ahead and split this this window up there, and Windows mirror to the soul, something mirrors Windows. I don't know. We'll go to the graph editor, and under right there where it says F-curve editor, go to drivers, and you'll see that Tim Mesh now has keys over here. Go ahead and hit the down arrow there, and now we have that smile.L shape key right there. So I'll tell you what, let's come in here and hit T to close the toolbar. We'll scroll over and hit N over here. And this is where we get this driver set up, where we give it, tell it how to work. So the type is going to be averaged value, and it pops up an error, but don't worry about that. That's fine. But then the object is going to be the facial rig right there. And now the specific part, smile.L, needs to be mouth.L. So fcmouth.L. So come down here, fcmouth.L. And then we need to give it local space, and it's going to go on the, I believe, the Z location. Sometimes I get the Z location and the Y location mixed up. But now we grab that controller, actually go back to pose mode with it, grab that controller, and see, nothing's happening now, so I guess that means we need to go to the Y location. There we go. And you can see it's now controlling that smile. Now it's not, you have to drag it way up or way down to really get a good depiction of what's going on. So if we come down here under the modifiers, and we got the Y equals 0.0, and then the next line says 1.0. If we make this 1.0 a higher number, it'll make this more effective the smaller you move it, the smaller distance you move it. So let's set that to, let's start off, let's try 10 and see what that looks like. So 10 might be a little too much because it's kind of moving really fast. So let's set that down to, let's make it 5, and I'll bet you that that'll work just fine. Yep. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the rest of them. I'm going to right click on here, and I'm going to copy that driver, and then I'm going to go down to the next one, go ahead and paste that driver. And if we come over here and click, you can see it updates and it adds that to it. And now it's pretty much the same control, it's just a different bone. So I just need to tell it, instead of fcmouth.L, just go ahead and change that to fcmouth.R. And now this one will control that side. So you can grab both of them and make them smile or frown both at the same time, instead of going individually with each slider. So this saves a lot of time when you go to animate. So let's go ahead and save that, and let's go ahead go through here and get the rest of these guys set up. So pretty much everything is going to be about the same as far as these settings go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and paste this driver across the board down here. Just go ahead and paste it on all of these guys, and then we'll just set it up individually as we go. So we'll get all these in there. Almost done. And one more. There we go. Okay, so they all have drivers now. Now we just need to set them up because they're all being controlled by this one guy here. So you see all of those take place now. So we need to tell them, nope, don't use that one for everything. We need to set it to each one to control what they're supposed to control. So now we have lid top left, which is going to be this guy. So we need to see FC mouth, FC eyelid TL top left. And this one's going to be a negative number since we're pulling it down instead of up. So this is going to be, let's try -5. And now we'll grab that and make sure it works. Good to go. All right. And then here it's going to be eyelid TR. And then also -5. Okay. Bottom. We'll leave this one alone. Bottom left. So we don't need to change that to negative. Go ahead and change this one to bottom FC. What was it? Eyelid bottom right. Same deal. Don't need to change that. Now the brow mid, or that's the brow.L. Okay, so that needs to be brow.L here. And I think we need to make this negative. Let's go ahead and do 5. And then I think, yeah. Okay. And then the same thing here. Brow.R. Negative. You can put whatever number here you like. If 5 is too little for you or too much, you know, experiment around with that and make it whatever number you like, as long as it's, you know, does what you want it to. So now we'll say FC brow mid. There we go. Also going to be -5. Jaw down. It's going to be FC chin. There we go. Going to be -5. Jaw left. Also going to be the chin controller. Except this time, instead of leaving it on the Y location, this one's going to go to the X location. So, pardon me, go ahead and change that to X location there. And I think we can go ahead and leave that a +5. So if we drag it here, yes. Okay, so the next one is going to be obviously the chin, and then also on the X location, this one's going to be the -5. So now the chin will control the jaw left, and the jaw right, and the jaw down. So he's like, he's chewing gum. Or chewing his pizza or something. I don't know. Okay, then we also did the jaw out, so that's going to be the same thing, chin. And this time it's going to be on the Z location. So if we pull it out, -5. If we pull it out, actually, I guess it needs to be +5. So we pull it out. There we go. He juts his chin out. So maybe he can kind of chew something and jut his chin out too. Nice and fluid. Okay, so lips top. Let's keep going with this. I'm going to say lips.T. And it's going to be a -5. Lips.B. Not sure on that one. I think that one should be -5 as well, but let's try them. Yeah, and then, okay, the lip top needs to actually be positive, so let's put that back. There we go. And then lips top out and lips bottom out. Those also are going to use those bone controllers. So this is going to be lips top. And this one's going to also use the Z location, and it's going to be 5. This one will also do the same thing. Lips bottom Z location. So now we grab both of these, drag them out. It makes the ooh shape. So there we go. So now we have some nice looking facial controls to control our facial rig. He's got an evil smile on his face or something. So there you go. So go ahead and clear all those out. And let's go ahead and save. And let's go ahead and combine this rig with the body controller rig. So let's go ahead and turn on the layer that has the clothes. And then go ahead and turn the layer that has the body rig, and let's go ahead and turn that to object mode, and then grab your facial controls, go ahead and name that object mode as well. And like I said, we're going to duplicate that to a different rig, but before I do that, I'm going to tab into edit mode, select all of these guys, and let's move them down to that layer there, so when we combine them with the body controller, they'll have their own layer. So let's go ahead and hit M, and then put them right there. And then make sure you have that one selected, tab out. And now we're going to go ahead and Shift D. And then let's go ahead and grab the original. And let's move that one to the same layer as the default rig. So there we go. Now we'll come back here. And then we're going to attach all this to this. So just select that, Shift select that, and it's going to be just like you do when you combine two meshes together. Just Control J, and it'll add them together. So now, if we select that layer there, because we changed it earlier, boom, there it is. However, since we combined it and also duplicated it and changed its name, these will, if we just turn on this layer only and then go to pose mode, these bones no longer control the face. So what we got to do now, go ahead and save this, is we have to go through here, and since we changed the rig, it's still looking for the facial rig, which we duplicated and added. So all we have to do now is just change the name of the object right here to the Tim rig. Let's go ahead and name that Tim_rig. And then I guess that's the rig part. Let's go ahead and name the object that as well. Okay, so we copy that, and now grab the model and just go through each one of these drivers and just replace where it says facial rig, just paste that Tim rig in there. Let's go through each one, and those will just transfer right over, easy as pie. Almost there. And finally. Okay, so now when we select these, you can see that they now control. Now, one other thing we need to do before we call this good to go is go ahead and go to your object data and go ahead and turn on the layer that has the actual deform head bone right there. And then we'll tab into edit mode. And let's select all of these facial controls. And make sure you deselect deselect that. And then shift select the head, Control P, and keep the offset. So now, if we turn that layer off, grab the head control layer, where's that? Right there. You can see the facial controls go along with it, and they will still work when they're not, even when they're not straight on forward. So there we go. Now, running out of time, but one thing I want to do, I should have done this on the actual facial rig, but no big deal. What I would like to do now is create bones for the eyeballs to interact with. So let's select one of the eyeballs, and we're going to Shift S, cursor to selected, and I'm going to grab my my rig, and let's create a whole new layer right here. And I'm going to Shift A, and actually let's tab into edit mode first. Now Shift A, and it'll add a new bone. I'm just going to drag this down to where it's even with the direction that the eye is pointing. So about right there, and then just drag it out a little bit. Okay, and we're going to call this one, go ahead and open up our properties panel. Go ahead and name this one eye.l. Okay. And then we're going to duplicate that back into edit mode, Shift D, drag it on the y-axis, and we're going to call this one lookat.l. And essentially what's going to happen is this eyeball, or this eye bone, is going to look at this one. So anytime I move this one around, this one's going to track to it. So what I need to do is select this one, then Shift select that, and hit Shift I. add IK chain to active bone. There we go. And then go to the bone settings, or there we go, bone constraints, and give it a chain length of 1. So now anytime I move that, you can see that bone follows along. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab both of these, tab into edit mode, and make sure our 3D cursor is in the center. And we're going to shift D to duplicate, and then hit period, SX -1, duplicate that over for the other eye, and go ahead and armature flip names. So we got lookat.r and I.r. There we go. And then you see that each one of these follows it accordingly. Now, when you animate, you could grab both of those and move them around, but that might get a little tedious at times. So let's just create one more bone here in the middle. I'll get the 3D cursor centered up. Let's move it over there. There we go. Add one more bone, and let's just drag this down, scale that, and attach these two to that. Control P, keep the offset. So now I can just move this one bone, and they'll both follow. Now, these two eyeball bones also need to be parented to the head. So let's go to our Object Data tab, turn on the layer that has the head, tab into edit mode, go ahead and model that, or parent that to there, and now we should be good to go. Although we need to add the eyeballs to the bones. Control P, and it's just going to be to the bone, like that. Same thing on the other eye. Control P to bone. There we go. Now let's move the lookat controllers to the same layer as the facial rig. So we'll just hit M, and there we go. Okay, so now if we go back to pose mode, it's like he's looking over here. The eyes are following. Say he's suspicious about something. What is that over there? I don't know. And then he's like turning his head as well. So there we go. Go ahead and clear all that out. And go ahead and save. And I think Tim is pretty well completed, ready to animate. In part 17, I'm going to show you a couple of more tricks that'll help animation go a little smoother, and then we'll work on getting the other character created from this character. So, again, that's going to be all for part 16. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in part 17.